Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. I have got a draft or avoid video for you for your 2020 fantasy football drafts to help prepare you. It's the end of draft month. If you've already drafted and you're doing other best ball leagues, or if you've got your friends and family draft for Labor Day weekend or this upcoming weekend, hopefully this video can help you with some tough decisions in those early to mid rounds that we're going to talk about here. I've got 4 different draft choices that you're going to be faced with, and I'm going to give you what my preference is at each one of those decision points and the decisions that I've been making. So if you're new to the channel, please drop a subscribe on the channel and make sure you ring that notifications bell as I come out with an absolute metric ton of fantasy football information, mostly centered around DFS, but we do some season-long stuff as well. And if you're returning, I appreciate y'all coming back. Drop a like on the video. Leave me a comment down below of the content you want to see during this DFS season. Let's just get to the choices, shall we? Our first choice is the one that's right there on the thumbnail. Josh Jacobs versus Kenyon Drake. They are right next to each other in terms of ADP. Every one of these choices that I have put out here is a this or that choice. You either have to pick this guy or that guy wherever you're picking. And if you have around the 14th, 15th pick in your draft, it is very likely that Josh Jacobs and Kenyon Drake are both going to be available to you when you select. So I don't lean 100% on last year's stats, but when there is a carryover in terms of head coaches, offensive coordinators, and personnel, meaning they didn't draft another player at that position, maybe to usurp some of the carries or catches, you kind of know what these coaching staffs like to do in terms of how they roll out players. So there's been a lot of buzz this offseason about Josh Jacobs and how much of a role he's going to have on the Las Vegas Raiders, and I don't disagree. He's going to be their most used back. However, he is not going to be used as much, in my opinion, as Kenyon Drake. There's been a lot of noise about Chase Edmonds and how Cliff thinks that he can take over next year as the lead back in this offense. But down the stretch last season, there weren't very many backs in the league that saw as much volume as Kenyon Drake did. Now, granted, there were injuries on that team, but you're talking about 85% of the snaps, 85% of the carries, the majority of the catches for the running backs on that unit. Kenyon Drake is an absolute monster until he's not. And for that reason, especially in full PPR, but even in half PPR, I'm selecting Kenyon Drake when it comes to draft or avoid at that decision point to Josh Jacobs. Now, this is not saying that Josh Jacobs is going to have a bad season, or I don't like Josh Jacobs or think that he's not a good player. I think he's an extremely talented running back. But when pressed with the choice of if I'm going to take the guy who could potentially catch 70 plus balls, or the guy who their coaching staff and front office continually brings in other backs, they drafted Bowden Jr. to be useful in the passing game. They signed Theo Riddick. They've still got another back behind him who was there last year that they use in their passing game as well, in Richard. There's every signal here to show us that they really do not want to expand Josh Jacobs' role in their pass game. And looking at last season, 3 targets in week 15, 0, 1, 3. Got 5 here in week 10, but I'd love to see that more often. 2, 3. He's a 2-down back who gets used sparingly in the passing game, should garner all of the inside the 5 carries. But guess what? Kenyon Drake got all of that work as well for Arizona last year on a similarly talented offense. In fact, I think that offense is a lot better. I think that the Raiders are going to be playing from behind a ton this year, which means that he could get schemed out or game flowed out of situations, Josh Jacobs, where Kenyon Drake simply won't. If Drake carries 75% of the running back snaps and 70% of the running back carries for the Arizona Cardinals, he's certainly somebody you're not going to take off the field on 3rd down or in 2-minute drill. Kenyon Drake is a far superior choice to me if pressed with a choice right there in the beginning to middle of the 2nd round. And you're getting a discount on him because of the walking boot news that we had about a week ago, where instead of going at the 12, 13 pick, he's now falling to 15, 16. Tremendous value in Kenyon Drake for me in the 2nd round. The next choice is the top of the 3rd round, and this guy is kind of flying. Jonathan Taylor is. He shot up from the RB22. Now he's going around the RB17, RB18 range. I still think that he has tremendous upside. He's one of the few backs being drafted in that range that I believe has a chance to finish the season as one of the top 5 or 6 running backs when you consider everything that's involved. The best offensive line in football, If you don't think they are, then fine, they're the second best offensive line in football. Via PFF, the Indianapolis Colts have the 6th easiest strength of schedule, including 2 games against the Houston Texans and the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have basically just shipped off anybody onto an ice floe that could play defense for them outside of maybe J.J. Watt over the last 2 seasons. Both of those defenses are going to be terrible, and the Colts catch them twice. Right now, Jonathan Taylor is priced at what his mean or median projection could be, which is about 200 carries for 900-something yards. Most people think that he can't catch because he did not get involved in the passing game very much in college at Wisconsin, but nobody gets used in the passing game for that are running backs in the Wisconsin offense. James White, over his 3 seasons at Wisconsin, over his first 3 seasons at Wisconsin, only caught 10 more balls than Jonathan Taylor, and we know how great a receiving back James White is. Melvin Gordon III is who I'm juxtaposing against here. Also caught 10 less balls in his 3 years at Wisconsin than Jonathan Taylor did, and we know how useful he is in the passing game. So don't always just lean on their college stats when it comes to their involvement in the passing game. Melvin Gordon did get a big contract from the Denver Broncos, but they had cap room because they're such a young team and they could afford to give him that money. They still have Phillip Lindsay in tow, and I think that Lindsay's going to be a little bit more utilized than people think. It's a very possible that Melvin Gordon's going to get about 55% of all the running back touches. I think he'll get the higher value touches, meaning the carries inside the 5-yard line, but Phillip Lindsay was not bad on the carries that he got inside the 5-yard line. If Lindsay stokes out maybe a 40 to 45% share of all the running back touches in Denver, that's going to massively cut into his usage, where we already know that that is baked into Jonathan Taylor, as everybody's expecting Nyheim Hines to be involved on 3rd down. We're expecting Marlon Mack to get 100 to 125 carries on this team. But with Phillip Rivers being the improved quarterback play that he's going to bring to Indianapolis over Jacoby Brissett last year, and as much as he checks down to his running backs, even if Jonathan Taylor's a 1st and 2nd down running back only to start the season and doesn't see an expanded role in the passing game, because of pass protection reasons, rookies running backs are usually not great at pass pro, and Nyheim Hines clearly a better pass catcher than Jonathan Taylor. All those things considered, Jonathan Taylor still could get you 2.5 catches per game, which will be more than enough to buoy this absolute physical freak on this amazing offense that projects to be in running game scripts with as much as they should be playing ahead against terrible defenses. The ceiling for him is off the charts, and I'm not seeing that same ceiling for Melvin Gordon III. So if being pressed with that choice in the middle of 3rd rounds, I'm going with Jonathan Taylor 100% of the time when presented with that opportunity. Our next decision point comes around the 4th round, late 3rd, sometimes early 4th round, and it's Terry McLaurin for the Washington football team and DK Metcalf. You guys know how much I like DK Metcalf. Led the league last season in terms of the highest leverage target that a wide receiver can get. That's end zone targets, and he did it as a rookie. You know that he is going to be somebody who is going to be top 2 on this team in terms of target percentage. Him and Tyler Lockett, both very viable. Kind of a thunder and lightning, so to speak, even though Metcalf is pretty fast and lightning in and of his own right. But there's nobody else to throw to for Washington. And they should be playing from behind a lot. And they should be playing at a faster pace than they played last year, because no team can possibly play as slow as that 2 years in a row. So they should trend upward in terms of pace, and now they're pace of play, and now there's nobody else to throw the ball to. So Terry McLaurin could push 135, 140, possibly 150 targets on this season, and it's going to be really tough to stop him. It's not like they didn't utilize him inside the end zone and inside the red zone. He was top 5 in the league in terms of end zone targets, but that massive volume is where I'm looking for 2020, and Terry McLaurin for me is the one player that I think is going to really exploit that, and I'm drafting him above DK Metcalf right now if pressed with the choice here around pick 46 to 50. You the man right now with the whole wide world in the palm of your hand right now. Filthy McNasty, thank you for the 12 months. Really appreciate the year of support. Guys, if you are watching this video on YouTube, I record every one of these videos live on Twitch. You can stop by the stream and say hello. Much easier for me to get to know you if you come by the stream, as opposed to just the replies here on YouTube. So I will stream about 6 days a week once NFL starts, which is going to be 1 week from now is when my content schedule starts for week 1 next Monday. Right now, it's the 31st of August. So next week, I will be on a full 6-day-a-week schedule, including Sunday mornings, the last 45 minutes before lock. So jump on over to Twitch. There's a link down below in the comments, or sorry, in the description. Go over there, drop a follow. You'll get notifications when I'm live. So for me, I'm prioritizing Terry McLaurin over DK Metcalf. I do have a lot of DK Metcalf in drafts. The dream for me is to come out of here with both of them, to be very honest with you. Two guys that I think could end the year as wide receiver ones, meaning that they're going to end the season as top 12 options at the position. They're being drafted in the mid-teens to the 20th wide receivers off the board. So McLaurin and DK Metcalf, both very solid options, but I'm tending to lean towards Terry McLaurin when given the opportunity. The final one, and this one is very, very difficult. I polled the Twitch chat before we went live on recording this video. And it's Deshaun Watson versus Russ Wilson. Being drafted right next to one another. Both of them, very viable stacks. Russ Wilson, I already mentioned DK Metcalf. If you go double tap on DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and come back the next round with Russ Wilson, you basically have over 50% of the targets that Russ Wilson's going to throw. And we know how efficient he's been, 30 plus touchdowns last year, possibility of monster games. But for me, I think that there's more opportunity for Deshaun Watson on a consistent week in, week out basis for a couple of reasons. One, the rushing upside that he brings to the table at this point in both of these individuals' careers is higher than what Russ Wilson brings to the table. Not that Russ can't run, he just does not run as often or as effectively as Deshaun Watson does in 2020. Also, I mentioned how bad that Houston Texans defense is. This is a team that should project to be among the highest overall totals, game totals, and possibly team totals this season. Also extremely stackable, with Will Fuller being drafted in the 5th and Cooks being drafted in around the 7th, sometimes the 8th rounds. You can get a single or a double stack around Deshaun Watson without reaching and still allow yourselves to go 1, 2, 3, 4 with 2 great running backs, 2 great wide receivers, and it leads to a fantastic team build. Every single one of my Deshaun Watson Houston Texans stacks that I've built so far during best ball draft season are some of my favorite drafts when I look back at it from top to bottom. I like the way that the team flows. I like the build around this. You could say the same thing when it comes to building a stack around Russ Wilson, but it's very difficult to get both Lockett and DK Metcalf in that same team and still come out of it with Wilson. That's not why I'm taking Watson above Wilson. I'm taking Watson above Wilson because of the massive shootout potential on a week in, week out basis. Now, Seattle's defense, clearly not a league winning defense. So there's going to be a few games that they get into shootouts as well. But their coaching staff does want to slow the game down, right? When they play in Seattle and they're playing with a lead, we know that 2 things are going to happen. The Seahawks are going to run the hell out of the ball, and Coach Carroll's going to chew the hell out of his bubble gum. As much as I think Carroll's a better coach than O'Brien, Deshaun Watson could be completely unleashed this year and average 25 points per game, with the majority of that going to his top 2 receiving targets in Brandon Cooks and Will Fuller, who are being drafted at a value. And for those couple of reasons, I'm choosing Deshaun Watson to draft and avoiding Russ Wilson at the same cost. Thank you guys for joining today. I appreciate y'all being here. Keep an eye out for that next video, which should be coming out tomorrow. And I'll catch you later. Bye.
He's a legend.